30 seconds and counting.
Hey, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to another video. It's Anish, I'm joined with Drew, and today we're going to be going over free agents the Texans should target in this upcoming free agency, which is in about 2 weeks. I believe it starts March 16th or somewhere along those lines. And so we're going to be going down 5 or 6 free agents that the Texans should target, and I think we might make a part 2 to this video, so stay tuned to that. And we already made a video on free agents the Texans should consider re-signing that are currently on the team. So guys like Malik Collins and people like that. So go and watch that video too. I'm not going to tell you all the names because that would defeat the purpose. But yeah, so before we start, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more Texans content like this. And without further ado, let's get right back into the video. So the Texans, they actually have right now they have an average amount of cap space, but that could easily be changed with trading Watson and with the potential trade of potentially trading Laremy Tunsil. I don't know if that's set in stone yet because it seems like Tunsil and Titus Howard are still I don't know, if you watch their social media, I know that that won't tell you much, but it seems like they're like Laremy Tunsil's best tackle duo between him and Titus, and so he keeps saying that. So maybe he does want to stay, but I don't know based on how the front office kind of managed him throughout. But we'll see about that. But this is a free agent video. But as far as positions that we need, it seems like we need a lot of positions on the team. We still need a lot of talent. My theory is that we go mainly defense for the draft and try to look at the interesting offensive free agents this year. So that's my take on maybe how we should approach the offseason. But Drew, I know you have some players that the Texans should target, so why don't you get us right into it?
Yeah, so before we start, make sure to go to our website to check out my part 1 article about the potential free agents that the Texans should be targeting this free agency. We'll put the link in the description for the video. And the first free agent I'm actually going to talk about is a defensive player. And we're going to talk about Eagles defensive end Derrick Barnett. This past season, Barnett had 46 tackles, 2 sacks. Barnett was the 14th overall pick in the 2017 NFL draft. So clearly the potential is there. The Eagles saw potential in him. Seems like he's been a little injury prone over his time with the Eagles. Fortunately, he can still make strides. He's still young, only 26 years old. Barnett is a pass-rushing 4-3 defensive end, which hypothetically, if the scheme for the Texans stay the same, Barnett would be a great fit for the Texans. The Texans are probably going to need to add some form of a run stopper on their defensive line, maybe at the 1 tech or the 3 tech. But I think defensive end-wise, they're going to want to create pressure for people. So they're going to need that pass-rushing 4-3 defensive end. In this case, and without looking at the draft, the Texans can put Barnett next to Bernard, maybe allowing the Texans to focus on the trenches or possibly the secondary in the draft, something like that. So no matter what happens, Barnett will add depth. He definitely needs a fresh start. He was a little injury prone. The Eagles organization has been a little shaky at times. And to me, this signing will be really similar to one that Casero made last year. He had the most free agent signings in the entire NFL. He drafted guys that needed fresh starts, guys who came off injuries, guys who are just veterans in the league. So I think that at a low cost, Barnett estimated market value is $4 to $7 million. Not really sure how his value is going to come out with him being a little injury prone. No doubt the talent is there. I think that Barnett would be a good addition to the defensive line.
Yeah, that's definitely a great category of type of free agents, guys who have something to prove and are relatively young. And like you said, veterans. So getting a fresh start is definitely going to be great for us, I hear. So I love this potential free agent signing if we were to go get Derrick Barnett. And the next person on your list is Dalton Schultz. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah, so to me, Dalton Schultz would by far be the most expensive signing Texans could make on the offensive side of the ball. I think there's some potential defensive players that might be asking for the bag the Texans could possibly sign. Not to say the Texans will be signing any players that are expensive. Texans' biggest signing, I'm not sure if many of y'all know, was actually a 1-year, $5 million contract to Malik Collins last offseason. That was their most expensive signing. This year, I expect it to be maybe 2 to 3 year deals, maybe a 4 year deal gets mixed in there if it's a big player. And I feel like this guy right here, Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz, could be the guy the Texans may want to give the biggest contract to. This past season, Dalton Schultz had 78 receptions for 808 yards and 8 touchdowns. He's one of the better pass catching tight ends in the entire NFL. Dalton Schultz notably went to college at Stanford, which is the same college as Davis Mills. Pep Hamilton was the offensive coordinator at Stanford while Jim Harbaugh was the head coach. Pep Hamilton's probably looking to get back to that 2 tight end offense kind of scheme that they ran at Stanford, the one that Pep Hamilton did run. Pep Hamilton also ran a West Coast scheme at Indianapolis, which could possibly reap the benefits for vertical threat tight ends such as Dalton Schultz to like throw the ball downfield, like have extensions of the run game, stuff like that. But Schultz had an insanely productive season on that insanely talented Cowboys offense. He isn't the best blocker, but he would no doubt would form a lethal threat alongside rookie tight end Brevin Jordan. You can't forget about him. He's also not the best blocker. The Texans would have to add another blocking tight end, kind of similar to the signing of Anthony Auclair last season. He was clearly the blocking tight end. But having the receiving threat of Dalton Schultz and Brevin Jordan, I think could be lethal with the Texans and would be really good for quarterback Davis Mills. Could be a really good scheme fit. And Dalton Schultz's estimated market value is, unfortunately, right now, $12.6 million, which I do anticipate him getting. The Texans would have to work out a favorable contract for both sides, but I think Dalton Schultz would have to be the fit just seems too perfect for the Texans.
And I think it would be interesting to see if Nick Caserio is going to be one of those general managers that does spend big. Because I think one thing to know last offseason was like the moment Nick Caserio came to the Texans and left the Patriots started spending big, like getting Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Matthew Judon on defense. So those are some big names. And so I feel like New England in the past, they weren't known for like signing these big name guys. But then the year after Nick Caserio leaves, they end up signing these big names. So I think it'll be interesting to see if Nick Caserio will go after a big name in Dalton Schultz. But like the connections are so obvious, maybe, and we know that Pep Hamilton has had an influence on like decision making and things like that. So I think that will be something to look out for. And speaking of Patriots, the next person on your list is restricted free agent Patriots wide receiver Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, so a little thing about the restricted free agent. Personally, don't feel like the Patriots really care if they're restricted or unrestricted. They seem to let a lot of free agents go. I don't know if that's something that we're going to continue to see. With Caserio being the Texans, like Anish said, Patriots spent big around Caserio left, but they seem to not value receivers very much. Myers kind of fits the mold there. This past season, he has 83 receptions, 866 yards, 10.4 yards per catch. And he played that true slot receiver role. He can play a little bit on the outside. His route running is really fascinating to me. He's smooth and silky. He really he finds a way to get open. And when he has the ball in his hands, he gets a lot of yards after the catch, too. He's only 25 years old. And I think it'd be interesting if the Texans could add him because this is a guy that Nick Caserio pretty much drafted. The Texans, one of the biggest, holes they need to fill is probably the slot receiver. They had Danny Amendola. He's old. Philip Dorsett came in, had a really productive last 2 games of the season before he got hurt. But I feel like the Texans, they may or may not, I don't know what the scheme is necessarily going to be like, but they do have a hole to fill at slot receiver. Myers is 6'2", only 25, like I said. His estimated market value is $5 to $9 million. Not exactly sure if that's going to work out. Wide receiver contracts tend to vary. Bill O'Brien gave Randall Cobb that 3-year, $21 million contract. You never know what's going to happen. I think Nick Caserio is obviously a much better negotiator here. I feel like he could be able to get some good value on Patriots wide receiver Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I would love just imagining like Cooks, Myers, and Collins. I think that would be a great triple threat, I mean, they all have, and Collins is blossoming. He kind of like started to break out near the end of the season. So hopefully, I think this would be a great addition to the team. Like I would love Jacoby Myers on this team. There's a lot of good wide receiver free agents out there, but this seems pretty realistic just considering like connections and things like that. But he is a restricted free agent, so who knows if the Patriots do end up re-signing him. And then the next person on your list is Bills quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. Can you talk more about him?
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting one. I had a poll. I think it was like, should we sign Mr. Trubisky? It was like 50 to 50. A lot of people maybe misunderstood it, but to me, Mr. Trubisky, his role, no matter what team he signs with, is going to be to add competition or possibly see if he still has it in him. And he was drafted number 2 overall in 2017. I think there's a lot of things you can do with him. In the first couple years, when him and Matt Nagy had a good offense, he was using his mobility. He was making the right passes. He wasn't taking too many risks. He looked good. He had a good preseason with the Bills, formed a good connection with Josh Allen. A lot of people in the Bills organization said that he was really improving. And then him just getting a fresh start with the Bills was going to kind of kickstart his career once again. So I just think that he'd be a good player to come in here, bring some competition for Davis Mills, who Lovie Smith said that Mills will pretty much be the starter, for the start of the off season. We'll have to see what happens after that. But, Trubisky can come in here and challenge and make Davis Mills better. At the very worst, he'll just be a solid backup. I think he has a lot to prove. I think exactly why he could come to the Texans, because that's what they did last year. They let a lot of guys come in here, prove their worth. Competition was something Nick Cassera preached, and that's why he had so many free agents. His estimated market value is $3 to $7 million. The $7 million would probably be incentive based, which he probably wouldn't achieve if he was a backup quarterback. So I think that you could get him for like $3 to $4 million, not even guaranteed money there. So Mitchell Trubisky could be a solid addition just for the Texans quarterback room in general.
And I think Trubisky, like he'd probably be open to the Texans because obviously he has no future in Buffalo, considering that Josh Allen is their quarterback, and that's probably not going to change for a good time now. And so Trubisky probably thinks that he could probably get the starting job here, but I think Davis Mills ends up winning out in that case. But with Trubisky, like versus Tyrod Taylor as a backup, I mean, we've seen Tyrod Taylor go through multiple systems, and we kind of know what he is now. Whereas the Mitchell Trubisky, he's only really been in one system, and sometimes like systems really like matter. So, obviously, so. Like if Mitchell Trubisky somehow performs better in the Texan system under Pep Hamilton's coaching, who knows if he might be something better than what we've seen in the past. So honestly, I wouldn't mind at all, especially at a solid cost. And another Bills player you mentioned on your list is Bills defensive tackle Harrison Phillips.
Yeah, so Harrison Phillips is an interesting kind of defensive tackle. This past season, he had 51 tackles, only 1 sack. He was the Buffalo Bills' Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. And, at first I thought that he was maybe more of a balanced 3-tech. But actually, looking into it, he played the 1-tech and 3-tech in the Bills' 4-3 scheme that the Texans have said that is actually pretty similar to theirs because they hired, as their defensive line coach, Jacques Tizier, who is the former Bills' assistant defensive line coach. So, you could always have that added aspect in there that Jacques might want to bring his former player in. Harrison Phillips may have liked Jacques a lot, but Harrison Phillips, he can play both the 1-tech and 3-tech. Like I said, he's got really good hands, decent speed. He can be a run stuffer and can also provide a little bit in the pass rushing aspect. He doesn't have too many moves, but he's got really good hands. He can get off blocks. He can take those double teams too. So I think he'd be an interesting option, and I think the familiarity with Jacques Tizier would be really interesting for the Texans.
And you add that like the Texans should like if they can't resign Malik Collins, then he would be a great addition. Would you still consider resigning him if Collins is resigned, or is that just a backup option?
Yeah, I mean, so that really depends. His estimated market value is like 5.4. I think that depends on the role. I think that's good depth. I mean, the Texans have Roy Lopez, Ross Blacklock, other guys like DeMarcus Walker. They have pieces there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think depth-wise, that'd be good. You'd have to get him at a cheaper price if Malik Collins is still there because I think Malik Collins is going to cost the Texans a decent amount too. So it just depends on the price for me.
All right, sounds good. And the last free agent we're going to be talking about is Bears right guard James Daniels, and we definitely need some offensive line help, especially on the interior. So, why don't what do you see in James Daniels?
Yeah, so personally think that the interior offensive line might be the most important position for the Texans. You know, that was really why we couldn't run the ball. And we were trying to run up the middle a lot. If you really want to run the ball up the middle, or at least run a inside zone scheme, you have to have good guards. Texans haven't had that since they had, Brandon Brooks, guys like that. Ben Jones, he was good. He was a good center. That's a position they really got to improve at. And James Daniels, the right guard for the Bears, he's only 24 years old. He must have been, pretty young entering the draft on a short contract, something like that. So he's a very quick and agile guard. He always keeps his feet moving. He's got a nasty streak where he'll just pancake guys in the run game. Kind of similar to what you see in Titus Howard. Of course, Titus Howard is probably moving to the tackle position. So this opens up a spot for James Daniels to either play left guard, right guard. He can even play a little center from what I've seen. He can play a little center at Iowa. He doesn't have the best hands, but his quickness makes up to it because he can always, stay moving around. If a guy rips past him, he can still get in front of him. McDaniels, he projects best in a zone and West Coast scheme, which could very well be the Texans scheme they're going to run. I think the James Daniels could be a really good addition to the Texans. His estimated market value is at $4 to $7 million. Some people think that because of his age, he might, get a little bit more money. From what I've seen, that was where his market value was currently. I think that he's probably the most underrated free agent just because of his age, his quickness. I think that's something really valuable that you need to look for in guards nowadays. And depending on the scheme, he could be absolutely perfect and could just flourish in the Texans.
Yeah, I absolutely love what I'm hearing, and I know a lot of our subscribers really want us to draft offensive line in the draft. But I think if we were to go ahead and sign James Daniels, that would be a great get for us, and that would probably dictate our draft strategy, of course. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Obviously, Drew, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Just stay on the lookout for more potential free agents we'll be talking about. Definitely gonna have a part two. Probably gonna have a part three. Free agencies in 14, 15 days, something like that. We're gonna start hearing some rumors about people that the Texans are targeting because the combine's coming up soon. So it's just really exciting time. The off season is just about to get started.
Yeah, and be sure to stay tuned to our channel because last offseason we made videos for every free agency signing. So we plan to do the same this year. So be on the lookout for that. But that's pretty much it for the video. Let us know your thoughts on these players that we mentioned. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank you all for watching. Peace.